so we can have a conversation. Good morning. Well, welcome to Money and Mindset with Dr. Stephanie Ardrey and Dr. Thyonne Gordon, known as Dr. Money and Story Genius. Good morning, TG. How are you?
Morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a happy Tuesday, a countdown to finals.
Yeah, I don't know how happy that is for you, but well, at least you're getting to it. That's a good
I'm
thing.
getting to it. I'm working through each day with a level of optimism.
That's fantastic. Well, I am in sunny Santa Barbara today. I have a
Oh,
little bit of work to do, and yeah, so it's nice and beautiful here. And I'm looking out the window like, oh, I want to go to the beach, but I know that's not possible right now because we have a show to do.
but definitely we are missing a beach. We have to get back to our beach location.
Oh, I know.
Working remote and all these things.
Exactly. That's why I'm excited about. I'm hoping our guest will come on today because I'm excited to hear about some real estate ventures, and I want to be one of the million women that she takes to the next level and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Monick is amazing. We had the pleasure of meeting some years back, and we developed a fast friendship as well as, opportunities to collaborate on business projects. And in fact, I'll go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about Monick. She is the founder of Real Estate Investor Goddesses, and she and her husband became investors. And through her process of doing so, noticed that there were probably more men at the time that she began focused on real estate. Definitely in my world, 20 something years ago now. I can't believe that that's when I transitioned into real estate development. And, I go through building and safety, and literally I'm, one of very few females in the room negotiating projects. But she decided not only after starting her business, but to create an opportunity to help to bring other women into the space as real estate investors. So she formed Real Estate Investor Goddesses, and she is an educator and advocate for female real estate investors. And her mission is to help 1 million women achieve financial freedom by using real estate as a tool. So, that warms my heart because that's definitely in alignment with what I've been up to over the years. But she and her group of investors, they collectively own over 1,300 rental units across 7 states. She's recognized as a #1 best-selling author, podcast host, and real estate strategy mentor. She's a wife and mother of 3 amazing kids. I mean, what else can this lady tell us about? We're going to have a fantastic conversation with Monick. And so why don't I go ahead and bring her into the conversation?
Oh, yes, please.
Well, good morning, Monick.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So where are you chiming in from today?
Right now I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. Yeah. I know you were in Mexico for a bit. I was on my way from Jamaica and you guys were taking off, and I said, shoot, I need to stop over in Mexico.
It was great. So it's my 2.5 weeks there, and now we're home.
Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome back to the States. So excited that you could join us today. Dr. Thyonne and I started this Money and Mindset podcast actually after our 2 months. We had 2 months in Jamaica, and then I decided to stay for another 3 weeks. And usually girl rule is you come together, you leave together. So I was like, my spirit said I still needed to stay. So she says, okay, I'm gonna let you stay, but we need to have some kind of accountability. So the accountability was, I'm gonna see you every day at 8 a.m. so that I know that you're okay and you're not wilding out. I still managed to wild out, but that's another story for another day.
I couldn't stop her.
But anyway, so we've been educating people around how much mindset contributes to money and manifestation and everything in life. And so we thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to have that conversation with you, not only in terms of what it is you're up to, but even thinking back to the transition, because this was not your first career. So how did you develop a mindset? Did you have to convince your husband, or did he have to convince you? Kind of, take us back through maybe the beginning of your journey of how you framed the mindset, and then kind of bring us up to where we are today.
Tell us your story.
Okay. Yeah, that's such a good question. It's such an important topic. I believe Tony Robbins says that success is 20% strategy, 80% psychology. All right, that's all the mindset piece. And growing up, I was taught that what you're meant to do is you're a good student, you go to college, you go to grad school, and then you become a doctor, lawyer, professor, engineer. Like that was no, I never heard anything really about building wealth other than you get the highest paying job possible. And then with that, you put some money aside in a 401k. You work until you're 65, 70. You're always trading your time for money. And then at some point you get a gold watch, you retire, you play golf, you die. Like that's the math. That's all I learned.
In that order. That's in that order.
It's exactly in that order. And I went of those choices, I chose law. I went to law school and I was working in a law firm and I was absolutely miserable. I was so unhappy. And I had, quote unquote, done everything right. I'd followed the path that they had told me to do. Right. It's like, good school, Ivy League law school, big firm. I was partnership track. I was on the path and I was miserable and I hated it. I was so miserable at one point, my appendix ruptured. I went to the hospital and then the doctor told me that my appendix had ruptured. I had to stay in the hospital for several days. I ended up being there for 9 days. And then he said I had at least 30 days afterwards to recover. My first thought was, oh, thank God I don't have to go to work for at least 30 days. I was just like, you might as well told me I won the lottery or something. That's how I got, oh God, freedom from my hell for at least a month. And that's when I really knew I had a problem, but I'd done, what I'd been told. And so at that point, I realized I needed to find a new path, something that that wasn't killing me, and that was miserable. And I fell into real estate by accident. It was not something that, no one taught me anything about real estate other than to buy your own home. And I went to do that, and this was in 2005 in Los Angeles, towards the top of the last bubble. And for those who are listening that are not in a market that's expensive like Los Angeles, a lot of people I tell this to, that's like, I was working in a law firm, I had a 6-figure salary, I couldn't afford a house by myself. And they're like, wait, how could that be possible? And you're like, well, it's possible when a starter home in a semi-decent neighborhood, just a neighborhood where you're not gonna have drive-by shootings, it starts at like $600,000, $700,000. I couldn't afford that by myself. So a friend of mine who was in a similar boat suggested we get a duplex together. The original idea was that we would each live on, get a house with 2 equal sides, each take one side. But we ended up finding this old craftsman with a larger downstairs, a smaller upstairs, and then a back house that had a 1 bedroom. So we each took a bedroom, and then in the bigger unit, we rented out the upstairs, rented out the back house, rented out the downstairs, and we started house hacking before I knew that was a thing. I went, oh my gosh, these people are paying their mortgage. That's awesome. And that was my first introduction to passive investing, passive income.
And after my own heart, I tell you, I still do that. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is great. When I met my husband, he had a duplex. We got a single family together. Then after the market crashed, we sold one of the duplexes and we started flipping, which was not very passive. And then learned about bringing groups of investors together and leveraging. And that's when we really started to grow our portfolio. And we started to do that in 2016, syndicating. And that was another paradigm shift. So up until that point, when I found out about this, I always thought I was limited to my own capital and credit. I didn't realize that you could partner with others. You could tap into OPM, other people's money, to grow your wealth and help them grow theirs as well. And that's when we really started to scale and grow our business a lot. And in 1 year, we went from 2 doors to over 1,000. And since we have invested in multifamily, single families, mobile home park, an RV park, and now we're doing mostly industrial. So we have some factories and manufacturing facilities around the country. And it was through this, these little paradigm shifts that happened with mindset. The one was knowing that the end game is not to try to trade your time for money and get the most money per hour, right? 'Cause you are going to be limited very quickly when you try to do that. It's really to create multiple streams of mostly passive income, and to build wealth. The other like mindset piece, and I've realized this. There's almost a different mindset level at I think with every zero you add, every digit, every extra figure you add to the bottom line. There's a 6-figure mindset, a 7-figure mindset, 8-figure mindset. I haven't gotten to the 9 and 10-figure mindsets yet, but there's a different mindset shift when you pass those bars, and they're crucial to have in order to move up with wealth.
Excellent. TG, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to find out from you. So, what happened with the law degree? What happened with your law career? Did you just totally stop, or do you use what you had, that foundation, to build on what you're doing now?
That's a good question. So, in 2008, I was pregnant with my daughter. I was working in a small firm. I tried different law firms. I was like, maybe I'll find somehow a place of law that I'll enjoy. So I went from one big firm to another big firm. I was in a small firm, and never really happy. It was not quite as miserable in the small firm, but I was still, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was maybe at a 4. Before I was at a 2, so it was a little better. It was still pretty bad. And when I was 5.5 months pregnant, my belly had just popped out. And just a week after I told my boss that I was pregnant, he called me into his office. I was expecting a bonus. Instead, I got fired. And yeah, I was that look you just had. That's really the look I had on my face too. I was just like, what? Not welcome news, but he ended up giving me a very big gift. So he pushed me out, right? Like I said, it was my belly had just popped out, and I finally, I'd spent the whole time going, gosh, I wish I looked more pregnant before I just looked fat. And then I started to look pregnant. I was like, damn, why do I look pregnant now that I had to find a job? So I decided, no one's probably going to hire me right now. I'm just going to wait till after I give birth, have a short maternity period, and then I'll look for a new job. And my daughter's born late August of 2008. You might remember what happened in autumn of 2008 in this country. Within a month, the markets were in free fall. A couple of months after that, my husband's graphic design business was down 90%. It was a very, very tough financial time for me. And I couldn't find another job, which was a gift. And it was the real estate that we had that managed to keep a roof over our heads at the time. And, but I did not go back to law after that, but I have those skills. I had been practicing, for about a decade at that point. And I am very happy now to have lawyers, that work for me, that I have lawyers. I'm a client, and I can speak their language, and I understand. So they help us, and they're on the team. I don't have to I'm not doing the legal work, but I can understand the contracts and We speak the
And you know if they're doing their job right and if they're happy.
I try to be I try not to do what some of my previous clients had done to me. Like, here's this thing. It's 5 p.m. on Friday. I'd like to see it on Monday morning. Yeah, I don't, I don't do that.
Okay. So you made that transition. And in making that transition, tell us about some of the, maybe some of the, you talked about getting fired and it ended up being a gift. And then you started seeing the leverage of real estate. Tell us about some of those shifts that you had to make from you told us about the shift from pretty much when you're in school and somebody's telling you what to do, and then you have to shift to the first 5-figure salary, then you shift to the 6-figure salary. What do the shifts feel like in the mindset, or what might you look for a mindset shift from one level to the next?
That's a really good question. I think there are a few ways in which that came for me. One was just looking at money differently. So from being something that I trade my time for to something that I could use to get, so I went from working for money to having money work for me. And so my focus shift, and that was a big mindset shift, which has greatly enabled my growth. The other thing, and as I became a business owner, and I went from so I had to do a shift. I did a shift from being an employee to being self-employed to having a business and being an investor. And all of those are different. Those are all different mindset shifts, right? So when you're an employee, you work for somebody else's business. They pay you. You give your time, your services. They pay you. When you're self-employed, you have your own business, but you're still trading your time for money, and it's not you. And then when you have a business, then you have employees who are there, then using their labor that in your system that you've created that help, where they're making money for their time, and then you get to make money off of their time. Right. And then that becomes again something that's the money is coming in without your effort, as well with the investments. So all of those were different mindset shifts. And it was actually a few years ago where I realized, gosh, I'm self-employed. I don't have a business. So I've really worked the past couple of years, especially building my team and making it so that I can go off for 2.5 weeks in Mexico and my business runs and I don't have to be in it.
Those are big shifts that you're talking about. They're really clear too, from being employed to self-employed to having a business to becoming an investor. Each of those are individual shifts where the mindset really has to be ready for each. Did you ever try to jump into one without being ready for it? So for example, being an employee and saying, wow, this is a great deal, I'm going to invest in it. Did you ever have an experience where you jumped from one to whoo?
I never tried to invest when I was an employee, and I wish I'd known more about investing. It was not something that I'd been taught, and that I knew to do. And what I knew was you got your money, and then the other mindset shift, the rich dad, poor dad frame was learning about assets versus liabilities. I really am putting your money into things that put money back into your pocket versus things that take money out of your pocket. So before that, I would buy liabilities. I would buy doodads and things that had no return on investment. And that's where most of my money went. And I had big shifts around. I had to do a lot of work also on debt. I mean, I would spend everything I made and then some. So I've actually, I had to do a lot of work on, around my relationship with money, And because money would come in and then it would go right back out again. And I didn't,
Like, what happened to it? What happened?
What? Yeah, I was like, and I really had I was in such a haze around money. I was so vague around money. It's like, I have a good salary, so it's, I guess it'll be okay, but it would come in and go out, and then the credit cards and the debt, and I didn't know how to save. I couldn't save. I couldn't, and it didn't matter how much money I had in, it would go out. So I've had to learn that about, it's not just what you make, it's what you keep. That makes a difference. And it's not just about income, it's about building your net worth. And I've actually I went into a program called Debtors Anonymous, and like really the 12 steps around this. And it's been a spiritual journey. But really, for me, it's been about bringing higher power into money.
You really did some work. You did some work
about that. What
work?
Triggering events that made you realize that it was worth spending more effort to really unpack that particular shift that was necessary? Was there a triggering event that said, wait a second, if I'm trying to accomplish X, I first have to get a handle on this? Or did it sort of evolve organically in the process?
There were a couple of triggering events. So the first one was when I really started to work on money, was when I got engaged. And I realized that I'm living in financial chaos. So I was working as a lawyer at this time. I had a good salary, but I was in financial chaos. So the bills would come and I just let them sit there until another envelope would come with like red, like overdue. And then I go, I guess I should pay that. Right. And then, so I was like paying all these extra fees, and I was just spending. I had no idea what was going on financially with my money. I would just ignore it until it kind of like knocked on my door and was like, you have to deal with this. And I go, oh, okay. I was a mess. And I realized that I did not want to bring that mess into my marriage, subject my poor husband to this. And he was bringing 2 kids into that marriage. And I knew that a lot of relationships fail because of money and finances. So I started to work on it and try. I was like, oh my God, I guess one thing for me to live in this like in this mess, I can't bring other people into this too. So I started to work on it then, but and it helped in a certain way, but it really wasn't until I got into Debtors Anonymous and I started like really doing the steps and bringing higher power in that it shifted, because I had a compulsion around like spending. I was a compulsive spender, and so I had to work at like an addict, and that started last year. And I was talking to a friend, a mentor, who's a money coach too, about, I was like, my income has gone down a little bit. My expenses are higher than my income right now. And she goes, has that happened to you before? Is that a pattern? And I went, wait a minute. I was like, yeah, that always like this happened in my life. Like it just hit me. I was like, wait, I always spend more than I make. Huh. Right. And so it was, she had recommended to me that I try Debtors Anonymous, which I did, and it's been life-changing. But I really have had to do the work around it. But it's like, ooh, now I'm savings and I've paid off debt. And I was like, amazing.
I think
the more I have more in, then it goes out.
And the main thing is you recognized it and you did something about it. So shifting that mindset, even though you had property, you were doing different things, you could have taken another route and said, let me just make more money. I need to make more money.
I always thought the answer was to make more money. And I had 4x my business like the previous year. And that's like, I'm still in debt. Interesting. Because then actually for me, I was a personal professional development junkie. So all of my money was going back into these, I was like investing in myself, but I was spending, it was too many at a time. I couldn't even really implement anything because I had all of these programs that I was doing. And I just, as soon as the money came in, it was right out the door again.
Well, I have to tell you the other interesting thing about this in terms of how it connects back to where you were originally. And it probably was the whole idea that you were doing these personal investments because you hated this one thing. So you're probably never going to go back to that one thing in your life. And in order to not go back to that one thing, you connect to other things like, oh, let me make sure I have something else. Let me make sure I can do this. Let me make sure I can do that. I'm not going to do law again, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to go save the world, and find yourself something other than that thing you were staying away from. You're actually staying away from it and doing something else. I want to shift the gears a little bit and ask you about the Million Woman challenge that you've given to yourself to have a million woman invest. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this came as a divine download. I had gone to my first syndication seminar, my first big real estate seminar, and it was a Friday and Saturday, and then we stayed the Saturday night for networking, and Sunday morning I'm in the hotel gym. I'm on the elliptical, just kind of going through the weekend in my head. They were talking about building a brand, building a network. Who do you want to work with? And it came like as this download that I was meant to work with women. I was thinking back in that room, I had 120 people had been at that conference. Maybe 8 of us in that room were women. Wow. And I think 2 of them were working in the back. So there were no women there, like very, very few. It was nice because there's nobody in the ladies' room or the lines. The lines and other than that, it was not nice. And it came as this download, and it was almost like God said, "Here's your mission. Should you choose to accept it, help 1 million women create financial freedom through real estate investing. Bring women into this room." And I had this full body yes, I went, I don't know what steps to take. I don't know what to do, but if you guide me, I'll do this. And so just step by step, I've been on this path. I don't see the whole path. I'm not sure exactly how it's all going to play out, but little by little, I've been taking steps, and the women are coming, and I'm finding financial freedom, and little by little we're getting there, and it's so
how does it work? How does one join your network to be one of your million women?
Yeah, so the best place is to go to reigoddesses.com. That's our website, and there they can connect to our community, our real estate investor goddesses community on Facebook. We have an investor club for those who are interested in passive investments. And we have programs, education, and mentorship trainings for women, and and there's a podcast as well. I'm talking to some people about a TV show, so if that happens, and that So, but the website reigoddesses.com is the best place to go.
That's fantastic. I mean, you've taught us so much today. First of all, to look at the end game so that we can create multiple streams of income, how we go through different stages, to not trade time for money, look at money so that you can have more time, using your money. You talked us through the different mindsets. People have a 5-figure mindset, a 6-figure mindset, a 7-figure mindset, an 8-figure mindset, and how you have to make a shift in each of those mindsets. So thank you so much. I really love the message I'm taking away today was your getting fired was a gift.
Yes.
And everybody can just take a look at whatever is going on in your life and you think, oh, this sucks, look at it as a gift. It's an opportunity for you to step through a different type of window or door, or who knows, go straight through the roof. You're building your own platform. So thank you so much for the time that you shared with us today. We had some guests on today talking about when you talked about your money, they were saying it went in the front door and out the back door, you know, and you had no idea how to go through so quick. So people really seem to resonate with your story. You can find Monick at realestateinvestorsgoddess.com, REI.com. And
goddesses.com.
REIgoddesses.com, REIgoddesses.com. So Dr. Money, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, I said, again, this was such a great conversation, both because it talked about not only the mindset, but it talked about real estate specifically, but really talked about business structure across the way. And that's definitely something that I'm always reaching out to entrepreneurs to talk about is, the transition from being an employee to being an actual business owner and what that looks like, and how that's so important as you're growing along the way. So I think this was a perfect example of, again, taking those lemons and turning them into lemonade and still finding a way not only to move, what Monick shared about is not only how she shifted moving her family forward, but because of that growth in her family, then having the capacity now to help 1 million other families to make their shifts as well. And I think that that's part of why it's so impactful when you work with women. They've always said, if women are educated, they educate. And so just in part of our nature, it is a perfect season, not only in the US, but in the world, where women are stepping up and are able to take our respective knowledge and experiences and then distill them in meaningful nuggets so that other folks can kind of have a roadmap. They can follow some breadcrumbs, they can avoid some pitfalls, and hopefully they can stand on parts of our shoulders and move humanity forward. And I think at the end of the day, that really is the ultimate of what we're each given particular assignments. But none of us was giving those assignments to work independently. It's about working collectively. So I hope that our listeners definitely take away that message and understand it in a context of real estate, relationship, and rewards, right? Making those investments, those passive investments together and continuing to grow. So again, thank you, Monick, for joining us. Congratulations and continued success with building your community. And, we want to check back in with you and see how the progression goes. Keep us posted on any of your upcoming workshops, training, conferences. I know you produce all of those things as well. And I think that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Great.
All right. Okay. Well, then with that, everyone will sign off and we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, TG, we're talking about something related to manifesting this week, right?
I think R's, routines and things like that. Your 3 R's tomorrow.
Fantastic. And then I'm going to do some homework. I'm preparing for finals.
Okay.
All right.